What is up, guys? McIntyre here, bringing you yet another Meta Monday. Today we're going to be talking about Sky Temple. This is a map that I think people wanted to hear next, so we're going to go over this map. I'm going to change up a few things today about how I do the video. As I do the video, you guys will notice that obviously I'm trying to make these videos better. So the more feedback that you guys give me on them, the better that I can attempt to try to make them. So today there's going to be a few things that I've added to the video. I want you guys to please let me know in the comments below after you've watched if you enjoy what you've seen. So hopefully I think that this will help the video's quality and help you learn a little bit more. So with that said, I hope you guys enjoy. So the three things that, again, we always talk about on Meta Mondays on certain maps are the strategy, the meta, and my favorite picks for each map. And today's map is going to be Sky Temple. The first thing that we'll start talking about today is strategy on Sky Temple. How do you play it? What's the most important part about the map? The Sky Temple is a 3-lane map with an importance on team fighting and sustain. As you can see, the 3 different shrines spawn. There's also 2 hard camps for each side, 2 easy camps. There's an eye for vision in the middle of the top map, and there's a boss in the bottom middle of the map. So the main thing of Sky Temple is just the importance of shrines. The camps influence the shrines, but our focus here today is going to be the shrines. So the first thing that I want to talk about is how shrines spawn at a minute 30 and what you can be doing proactively before that first shrine. So one thing that I think a lot of teams and a lot of players don't think about before going into a game is, with the composition that we have, can you team fight? If you can team fight and you feel like your team wins the fight against the other team, you should always contest one of the first 2 shrines, which are always going to spawn top and middle. If you feel like your team cannot win the team fight, then you should prioritize just trading. So if let's say you have a team that doesn't have much CC, but you feel like you might be able to find picks, then just trading is going to get you further ahead than trying to fight a team fight that you cannot win and get a level or 2 behind while losing both shrines. If you are the team that let's say just trades and you take something like a Sylvanas, it's actually kind of important to try to push a wall either in the top or middle of the map. What this is going to do is kind of take, if you get the wall for the shrine that you take, let's say a top wall, and then you take top shrine, then you get a top fort, and that will kind of propel you into an XP lead on the other team. If the other team only takes mid shrine and you take top, you get the fort, you're going to have the XP advantage here, right? If you can do that, then that is the shrine that you should prioritize, right? So I'm going to kind of hop into the game super quick here and show you guys what I'm kind of talking about. So at a minute 30, the shrine is going to spawn. And as you can see, we now have both a top that I've kind of pushed in here. I'll even finish the tower. And we'll have a middle lane that has the full wall up. So what I'm going to do is kind of show off, if I now have this top wall taken, I should be able to get a full fort off of this shrine, rather than if I take the middle shrine and I would only get a wall and a tower, right? You actually don't even get the tower XP if you take mid. You get the tower XP if you take the other way around. So you get the tower XP if you take mid. You do not get the tower XP if you take top. The reason for that is the shrine actually shoots at the fort before it shoots at the tower. With a mid shrine, you're going to shoot at the tower before you shoot at the fort. So if no wall is taken, you should put a priority on mid shrine for that reason, because you'll get a tower XP lead or advantage, right? And during these first 2 shrines, there's a few things that your team can do, and that I think a lot of teams mess up onto as well. If your team has a global, it's important to stick them in the bottom lane, have them soak, and then rotate. This is where like Brightwing and Falstad get a lot of value. As you can see, I got both fort and tower because I took this wall, right? So now I haven't pushed mid at all, and I'm going to hop on the shrine here. And I'm going to gain a significant XP advantage, but I will not get the fort XP. So this is a big deal. If I was playing a game and let's say I had a player on my team sit bottom, soak the bottom lane, I had a player on my team sit mid, soak the mid lane, and I had a tri-lane top, and we couldn't win a team fight, but we pushed top, okay, and then we traded shrines with the other team, we would be a fort XP up as well as a like 3 lanes worth of XP. So you would have a huge experience lead. This is what you see a lot of the pro teams do, is they just get humongous XP leads just off of these first 2 shrines. I almost want to sit here and talk just about these first 2 shrines with you guys for an incredibly long time, because it is the most important phase of the game. As you can see here, this middle shrine is it about it's taking about a quarter of its health. I did get the tower, and the next thing I want to point out is the shrine finished at about 340. So on Sky Temple, every 2 minutes after the last shot is spit out, a new temple shrine spawns. So at 540, the next Sky Temple shrine will spawn, and that's going to be in the bottom lane. So this is the phase of the game. I'm going to tab out of the game now. This is the phase of the game where your team needs to get out the camps, right? And this is where you always see pro teams get out the camps. If let's say you have an experienced lead, then the other team's gonna have a harder time stopping your team from doing what you want now, because you'll beat them to the level 7 talent. So it'd be 7-6. You can push that disadvantage. There's 2 different things that a lot of teams like to do at this point in the game. The first is going to be taking the hard camp, and then as the hard camp goes through top, you head down bottom, you get the easy camp at the exact same time, and you send a 3-man pushing bottom, okay? A lot of teams will do this to knock down the bottom wall. If you can get the bottom wall down and get damage on the bottom well, if you can kill the enemy's bottom well, then you almost guarantee yourself bottom shrine. It's so much harder to fight for bottom, the next shrine, because it always spawns bottom. It's so much harder to fight for it without a well. So a lot of teams will run this sort of strategy. The other, if they don't feel like they have the experience lead, so if you're not 7-6 or something like that, the other thing that you see a lot of teams do, they'll knock out their easy camp, then they'll come up and do their hard camp, and right when the shrine spawns, if you've timed it, in my game, right, it was 540. So if I know that the shrine's going to spawn at 540, I need to get the camp out before that. So let's say I get it done by 530. I capture it, and then I let it push while we then contest bottom, right? So now this camp's going to push while this temple has spawned. Now my team has somebody camp pushing top, and we're now fighting for bottom. Again, if your team is not strong enough to team fight, then punish the other team on this rotation. They're probably going to send all of their players down, right? If they do that, you can send 3 people up and push top if you haven't already. Or if you've already pushed top, you can start pushing for even a wall here. Trading this wall for your bot fort is not the worst deal, and a lot of teams end up doing that if they don't feel like they can win. If you've gained enough of an experience lead during this kind of point in the game, then you actually will hit 10 during this shrine, and you'll see a lot of teams just blow the other team out with a 9-10 fight. It'll push the game even further into an experience lead, and maybe make it a 12-9 game or something like that, right? This is kind of the 2 most important phases of this game on Sky Temple. Once these first 2 shrines are down, you're kind of playing your XP lead that you've gained from these 2 shrines, right? From this point on, you're either playing towards a level advantage, or you're using the same sort of rotations to win. So once we've kind of gotten past the first 2 shrines, we'll talk more now about kind of prioritizing specific shrines while holding on to your experience lead. So in most cases, if your team is ahead, you almost always want to control this bottom shrine. The reason for that is by controlling the bottom shrine, you control the boss. The other team can't do the boss if you get the bottom shrine. So if top and bot shrine spawn, it's way better to get control of bot shrine instead of top, because if you do top shrine, then the other team can just rip a boss. And the rotation there is so far that a lot of the time, especially after this mount nerf, this is going to be a long rotation, and it's going to be very difficult for your team to get down there and contest that. So kind of prioritize this shrine over the top in this case. Same with if, let's say, it spawns middle, always prioritize bot. Now, if you have a middle and top shrine, I personally like controlling middle shrine more. The reason for that is if you can control the eye, then you win this team fight most of the time. It allows you to catch flanks. You can see their back line most of the time when you control the eye, and you just kind of control the whole area here if you can control the eye. And if you have an experienced lead, it's much harder for the other team to say, oh, okay, we'll fight them on the eye there. That's what you want them to do. And most of the time, players are going to they're going to respect your level of advantage and kind of give you what you want, okay? Obviously, if mid shrine or top shrine, let's say top shrine's the only shrine that spawns, if you get these camps out during that time period, it's really good. They'll push, right? The last thing that I kind of want to talk about with the priority of shrines before I go into my last little point of the strategy of this map is if you let's say you have a spawn top and middle, okay, and you've knocked down all of these, okay, and you've gotten a boss that's knocked you've gotten a hard camp that's knocked this wall down. I want you guys to kind of think for yourself right now, which shrine do you think is the most important here? I'll give you like a few seconds. So if you can't figure it out, you want to be taking the top shrine here. This top shrine's ammunition will kill the keep. And getting a keep is way better than just knocking down the tower and weakening mid keep. Always prioritize the shrine that is going to get you the most. If it is the top shrine, then you want to get the top shrine. Even if, let's say, you give up all of middle and the other team, you know, you want to try to send somebody down to defend if they push middle or whatever. But always prioritize and think about when the shrines spawn, which one do you want? Which one do we want? Which one is the most important for us? In some cases, it's, you know, like I said, there's no advantage for either team. So controlling bot to protect boss, most important. Or, oh, let's get mid because we have eye. That's really good, right? You never want to be the team on the back foot when it comes to shrine. And the last kind of, and I just kind of talked about it here, but the eye is super important on this map when it comes to team fighting, especially for these two top camps. And the reason for that is that these two top camps, if you have the eye, you kind of protect yourself from flanks. So with this top shrine, if you have the eye, you protect yourself in this area, okay? Say your team's coming in from here. You're protected from this angle. They can't walk around you because you'll see them, right? Vice versa, if you know you're on this side, they also can't flank you like this, right? They can't get to you. They have to fight you from around here without you knowing about it, okay? It's really important. And then with this middle eye, again, you're gonna have this vision. I'll circle it again. Okay, something probably a little more wider, but you kind of get the idea, right? You can't get flanked from here, right? You can see the back line pushing in here, okay? So the only area you need to worry about is this area, and sometimes you'll see people flank around in this area, but you guys get the general idea. So just going over the strategy again, I'm not going to go into too much detail because this map is all about the shrines, and the first and second shrine are the most important, and it's where most teams pull their leads from. The first thing that, again, we talked about, first shrine spawns at 130, be ready for it, okay? Always think about, can we team fight? If we can team fight, then we can contest the shrine that they're fighting for. If we can't team fight, then we want to trade and press a lane somewhere else, okay? Then remember that after the last shot in the shrine is finished, you want to time that. 2 minutes after that is when the bottom shrine is going to spawn. It's always going to be the bottom shrine, okay? Now, the bottom shrine, if you can get to the bottom well on the bottom shrine, then your team has a huge advantage. If that means sitting a person bottom during the first shrine phase and getting to this wall, so be it. That's a strategy. People try that because that will win them the second shrine. But however you do it, if you get a bottom well during this, then you will push your advantage way further on that bottom shrine phase. Let's say the enemy quickly goes and does their hard camp. You know they're doing their hard camp. Send 3 people down, jam this wall out, get this wall before the shrine spawns. At 10, if you get your 10 lead on bottom shrine, you can force the team fight, get a 2-level lead, and hold that lead, right? Now we talk about the priority of the shrines afterwards. Bottom shrine is usually the most important. Watch out for the boss. Middle shrine is the next most important because of the eye control. Top shrine being the least important. So that is the strategy of Sky Temple. The next thing I want to talk about is going to be the meta of the map. This is where I'm going to try something different here again on this video. Instead of talking about what I think the meta is, I'm going to look at 2 teams from 2 different regions and look at the drafts for this map and what each team drafted against each other. So again, going back to this, it's very important to team fight and sustain yourself on shrines, because the shrines are going to spawn and you will have to fight for them as they win you the map most of the time here, right? So we're going to look at first this Denial versus Murloc Geniuses. I believe Denial is going to be winning this game, but we are going to look at their picks here and see how both teams kind of drafted. So when looking at Denial, some important things that I noticed, and I guess I should throw this out here as well. Zagara is banned in both of these games as a first ban. So, and I think the reason for that is you no longer have to play for shrines if you have Zagara, because she can split push everywhere and keep all lanes pushed in, and you're always pressured. It's very hard to kind of push that out without losing something. So let's say she pushes top with her Nidus, you go top to defend it, they do boss. It's nasty. Zagara is really powerful right now on this map for that reason. So the important thing here is that Denial actually is going to second pick Brightwing and Myrddin, and I think Brightwing on this map is great because of her global. When I talked about this bottom shrine, for example, the bottom shrine, if you send Brightwing top, can soak out that hard camp that the people send it, the kind of delay right there at the end. You can have Brightwing go defend that, then have yours push into theirs, and then Brightwing can Z down, right, and be there at the team fight. So she does a lot of cool things like that. She can always be in the off lane, the lane that's the least important. Even like, let's say she's soaking top shots for like a few seconds just to get the first few shots, but the team fight's happening mid, she can get them, blink down. It's a really powerful mechanic on this map. And she has great sustain when you're kind of 2 teams just throwing stuff at each other. The other thing is the strong Myrddin tank. He just goes so well with everything here. He's a really good pick on this map. So the next thing that I noticed about their team composition is going to be the Sylvanas. So the Sylvanas is going to create pressures off the shrine, while Zeratul can kind of roam and try to find picks with the protection of Medivh. So Medivh is the eye for Zeratul. Zeratul is also an eye for himself, but Medivh can kind of go off, find people, and then Zeratul can show up. Brightwing can Z in, and they can maybe create picks that way. Sylvanas can push bottom lane, so the other team has to kind of respect that push. And then now Zeratul and Medivh have the map to themselves. So I really like that kind of synergy there on their picks. Also, Sylvanas pairs really well with Zeratul with a VP silence combo. So the overall big thing about Denial's team composition that I really like here, though, is that they are not necessarily looking for a team fight, but they're more looking to isolate and get picks while Brightwing and Sylvanas create pressure. So when they create pressure, the other team reacts, and when the other team reacts, the Zeratul, the Myrddin, and the Medivh are trying to find opportunities on the other team's rotation. So I really like that kind of composition. They also are really safe with Medivh portals out of shrines. They don't have to capture full shrines to get value. They can get shots where they can and then rotate and push somewhere else on the map. So I think it's a really neat composition that Nile has, and it's one that I personally really enjoy. So, and then now we're going to look at MG's composition. The first thing that I notice is that they are going to ban out the Greymane. So I think they're banning out Greymane and assuming that now they're going to get the Li Ming that takes off the heavy carry, kind of trying to shut out Larong here, I think. But I do like the Li Ming first pick because of the shrine. Li Ming can get really easy damage in because the other team has to stand on the shrine, right? really good at resetting, and as we look further into their composition, we're gonna see more of the we want to get one kill and then we'll win the fight from there. The next thing that they're going to pick up is the Falstad Global. Again, is so powerful, much like the Brightwing that I talked about. Being able to soak an off lane and then fly to a team fight is very powerful on this map, and Falstad does that great. He also is really good with Gust and disengaging. I think he's just he's one of the strongest picks, and it's very obvious right now in the meta as he's first picked in most of the regions. So then they're going to follow it up with the ETC Carrion. This is what I kind of talked about before. Can your team win a team fight? And these two picks to me are saying that we want to win the team fight. We want to come into you, right? And that Medivh pick for me, that was, I think, a last pick out of Denial, kind of shuts all of this down. They want to put all of their cooldowns into one person, Murlocs does. And this Medivh pick kind of shut that team, I guess, like what their plan was down. So that's again why I really like that pick. But keeping their team mobile, they kind of stopped them from getting these picks. Even though they might find some early, it's not going to matter as the game goes on if they can hold an advantage off the first and second shrine, right? So also a really good thing to notice here too is they got the Uther. The D-Shield on ETC and Kerrigan is really strong. They're really just looking for one reset, Murlocs, and you can find it on shrines considering fights are going to happen. And they also have really decent poke from flank angles. When I talked about middle kind of coming from the lane and the top of the eye, there's a lot of poke to be had there. So overall for me, I think I like Murlocs composition a lot, but I think having Calf and Glaurung being on two picks that are very comfort for them kind of pulled them to the victory, as well as the Medivh pick countering that Murlocs wanted to one-shot somebody and then reset and win out. Also just want to shout out to APM for I know he's been practicing Brightwing and Hero League all the time. So him busting it out and showing a great performance and showing that he synergizes with Glau in this game was really cool. So this is the first comp, and next comp that we're going to look at is going to be MVP Black versus L5. This is now the Korean meta, so we're going to introduce a few new things, but a lot of stuff is going to look really familiar, actually. One of those things being that Zagara is banned again. Just neither region wants to play against it. It's just not fun. The one thing that I do like, though, out of L5 is the ban against Illidan against first pick. So because first pick has the extra pick, you can take a strong carry. Like, they could have taken Li Ming first pick here, and then gone Illidan Rhaegar, or Illidan Tassadar, or something like that. Illidan Abathur. Because they get that third pick, Illidan becomes a stronger kind of pick for them rather than second pick. If they were to take Illidan Abba, that would not be near as good. So, I really like that ban, but we're going to see, again, a first pick Li Ming coming out of MVP Black. Kind of the same sort of deal. Great poke. Great kind of team fight on the shrine. And then they're going to go into Tyrael and Zeratul. Just like Denial, I think they're going to kind of look to roam with their Zeratul and Tyrael this game. While the Sylvanas is going to be picked up just like Denial for the wave clear and to create pressure on the map. To kind of give space to Rich and Sign with their rotations, right? I think they have a really good roaming composition. But they're actually really weak on Shrine with this team comp. Solo Tyrael can't really stand on the platform and solo tank. So their comp to me is very all-in and kind of difficult to play. I do think MVP Black has the ability to play this composition, but I would rather see a heavier tank here from Tyrael instead of Tyrael, or instead of Rich playing Zeratul, have him on another tank, which would be more towards an EU strategy, but I don't really think that Tyrael brings enough to this composition as a solo tank. So that's MVP Black's kind of composition. They're looking for roam picks in the early game with the Tyrael Zeratul, and then that's going to kind of propel them towards the late game and winning. And now if we look at L5s, again, I talked about that Illidan ban. I really love that, against the first pick, especially since Rich is playing the Illidan. Illidan's so good at chasing people down once you get a shrine and don't have fort protection, so really good. They're going to pick up the Myrddin Falstad second pick. Falstad, obviously great global, again, talked about that earlier, and Myrddin being just an awesome front line on this map. He can stand on shrine. He gets out easily. He's got tons of kind of jump angles and stuff. Also, this is Noblesse playing it. I've always looked up to his Myrddin. He has a great Myrddin. So this is just comfort again for this team. The next thing that I really like about L5's comp here is that they ban out the Abathur. So this is shutting down Zeratul Abba. This kind of composition allows, the Zera Abba composition allows for really full heavy all in, which is what MVP Black already is. It also allows them to globally soak the map, so they can leave lanes. Like if L5 pushes top, they don't care if anybody's up there because Abathur can soak it, so they can rotate 4 people bottom to find a pick, which is what they're trying to do. Also, cloning Zeratul is pretty strong in a team fight, as you can just kind of go in, kill somebody, and then you've won the team fight from there. So I really, really like that ban. I think that's great drafting coming out of L5. So that's a really awesome pick. And then just looking at their full composition as it came together with a Thrall, Brightwing, and actually, I just forgot her name, Lunara. I actually think that L5's draft might be one of the best drafts that I've seen in Heroes of the Storm. Just when I look at it, Brightwing has great sustained healing. You have a stun from the Myrddin that kind of leads the engage, and it can be aided by Lunara's slow. If she slows with her W, then Myrddin has a much easier time hitting his stun. Then from there you have a follow up with Thrall Wolf, or you can sunder into an engage. Then Myrddin can stun onto that. You have Falstad Gus for disengage or engage. He has global both from Brightwing and Falstad. I mean, honestly, they have a strong front line. They have good sustain. They have globals. They can find picks. They're pretty hard to kill. Most of them are evasive, and they have great poke. So, looking at this game, I can tell without watching it that L5 is probably going to win. And L5 actually goes on to win. And I think a lot of their success this game came from the draft. They punished the Tyrael pick from MVP Black. I think if MVP Black had gone maybe ETC instead of Tyrael, they could have done a little bit more here. But overall, great draft from L5. So as you can see, the meta on this map is very similar from region to region. Teams like globals. They like Myrddin and frontline that is heavy and can find picks. It's all about rotations and winning the rotations. If you can get ahead of the other team, then you can beat them. Another thing to notice is Sylvanas was actually prioritized in 2 of these games. It's because she can push well, so it causes the other team to have to rotate and respect your push. Another thing I think that I noticed just from both of these games is Li Ming was heavily picked. I mean, a lot of it has to do with, I think, Li Ming just being an overall really strong pick right now, but I hope you can kind of see both of the different metas for each region, but see how similar they are, as all the players play this map kind of very similarly. So the next thing that we want to go into now is going to be my favorite picks for the map. Just looking at those 2 drafts, before I even decided on those 2 drafts, I had come up with my 3 favorite picks. My first favorite pick is going to be Myrddin. I think he's just incredible on this map. His high health pool, his high sustain with his passive, he can stand on the shrine and not die, take a lot of damage, jump out, and then stand still with his passive and get all of that health back. His avatar is great with his 13 heal on Thunderclap. The other teams tend to clump. He's really good at finding picks and chasing. And if you get a building on this map, you have all the room in the world to chase the other team, right? There's also tons of places to jump. Just if you look quickly at the map, like if you're getting bot shrine as Myrddin, you can jump from here. If you're getting mid shrine, right, you can jump over this wall, you can jump down here. If you're up here on this shrine, you can jump over here. There's just so many escape paths because of the walls on this map that I think Myrddin's just a great pick. And he helps in rotations too. He can clog up rotations for the other team and kind of shut them down from rotating from mid to bot or something along this line. As far as compositions with Myrddin go, he's flexible everywhere. I think Myrddin can be put with any composition. He just needs one form of wave clear on his team. I think that's the only requirement. But everything else he works really well with. So he would be my first favorite pick for this map when I can get him. My second is actually going to be Monk. I think Monk fights so well on the shrine because of the boss. The boss being there has a high health pool, so Monk can just literally sit there and just punch it the whole time and keep himself full health and heal people around him. Kind of gives him a target to hit safely, right? Another thing about him is that he has great AoE healing, so again, sustain heals, keeping everyone healthy, really important here, and Monk does that really well with his W. His ability to get out of Shrine when he gets collapsed on is also really strong. Just like Myrddin's leap, he can dash out, which is great. If the other team collapses and gets an angle, most of the time you're still going to live on Monk. And the other one is a good palm, just shuts down a lot of these team fights. You looked at Murloc's composition, it was full all in. The Medivh pick was picked to counter it, but a Monk pick as well would have been really strong there. When the other team engages and goes on one target, you palm that target, all their cooldowns are down, and then you've reset the team fight in your team's advantage. Monk's thing Monk kind of works best with poke compositions. Teams that want to poke, have the other team come into them. Not so much of a proactive, I want to fight and chase, but he's much better at kind of sitting back, holding down a shrine, and protecting his team from getting killed. My last pick that I'm going to go over is going to be Zeratul, which was picked in both games by two different teams and played by two great Zeratul players. But I think this is one of Zeratul's maps, because the laning phase on this map is not so important. It's more about team fights and rotations. And because of that, Zeratul, I think, has lots of space to roam the map and flank and find picks, right? There's so many angles for him on the shrines because the other team's going to be positioned kind of on the opposite side of the shrine. If you can find your way around to that side of the shrine, then you're on the back side of the other team. And there's nowhere for them to go other than through you, right? He does a great job of controlling the eye on this map, which again is something that's super important. All three of these heroes actually do a really good job of getting control of the eye. They have a hard time of dying. So like Zeratul can blink out, Monk can dash, Myrddin can jump. Controlling the eye is so good as it helps to aid you for top and middle shrine. And honestly, just the vision he creates while being invisible, just walking around, standing still, watching people go from bottom to middle to top, you know. Yeah, he's just a great pick here. If you know where the other team is on this map, it helps a ton. You can say, okay, we can sit on top shrine. Okay, here they come. They're almost there. All right, we need to leave the shrine now. And Zeratul can aid towards that. Another really big thing I think with Zeratul is there's a lot of chokes on this map that a good VP can just win the game. I'm going to circle them super quick on the map. The first one is going to be in here. A lot of teams kind of retreat through this angle. You can get a good VP there. Another one that always kind of works out for me is in here or on the boss even. Okay. Another really good VP is when the other team falls out of this hole from the shrine. And same for the top shrine, they kind of retreat through this hole, right? There's all these different holes and hallways that teams like to retreat through, and Zeratul, one good VP on top of, you know, in Denial's case, a Sylvanas silence, just blows the game out. So I think Zeratul on this map has always been one of my favorites, and he just continues to be a threat in the hands of a really good player. So I'm glad that both of the top teams in their respective regions are taking this pick, as I have always felt like he is an incredible pick on the map. So again, we've went over the strategy, the meta, and the favorite picks. I've changed some things up. Hopefully it wasn't, I'll obviously get a lot better, but hope you guys enjoyed. I'm going to continue to clean up a lot of my things. I'm completely new to making videos, so I'm having a hard time with the construction of the video, not so much the content. So if you guys did enjoy, please make sure to throw a like on the video and subscribe to my YouTube. You can always swing by my Twitch and Twitter, which will both be located below. say what's up, ask me any further questions. If you guys have any further questions about Sky Temple in general, like very specific, please feel free to ask me in the comments below. I will do my best to answer those questions. This map is an insanely difficult map. This is one of the hardest ones, and it's why top teams always tend to pick it against lower tier teams, as the understanding of the map for lower tier teams is weaker and rotations always wins here. So that's why we always see it picked, and that's why rotations in the first 2 shrines are so important, and why I basically put most of my focus on this video on those 2 shrines. Hopefully you guys learned a lot from this video. If you did, yeah, like, use it, try it out, let me know how you liked it, and just kind of post something in the comments below. So I guess I will see you guys next Monday. We'll be doing Blackheart's Bay. So I'll see you guys all then. Cheers and have a great one.